Here's the deal. Most men have no idea when a woman is silently screaming for them to make a move. She could be giving signals that are practically neon signs, but if you don't know how to read them, you'll miss your chance and she'll move on to the guy who does. Think about it. You've been in that moment before, talking to a woman, maybe laughing, maybe feeling like there's something there, but you weren't sure if it was in your head. You second-guessed yourself, and by the time you tried to figure it out, the spark was gone. That's the reality for so many men, not because women aren't interested, but because men don't recognize the subtle, almost invisible signs that she secretly wants you. Here's the truth. Attraction isn't always loud. It's often quiet, hidden in body language, in small gestures, in things she doesn't say. The guys who know how to pick up on these signs, they're the ones who never wonder if she likes them, they know. And that's when confidence becomes effortless. In this video, I'm going to show you the one irresistible sign that every man needs to know, and how to spot the other subtle clues that tell you she's waiting for you to take the lead. Once you understand this, you'll see the game in a completely different way. Let's get into it. Number 1. Hand near yours. Alright, let's talk about the first and probably one of the most overlooked signs when her hand is near yours. Now, I'm not talking about random coincidence, like both of you reaching for the salt at the same time in a crowded diner. I'm talking about those moments when you're sitting across from her at a coffee shop, or maybe side by side at a bar, and somehow her hand just happens to rest right next to yours and stays there. Here's the thing. Women are incredibly aware of their personal space. If she's putting her hand close to yours, close enough that one small movement could bridge the gap, it's rarely accidental. It's an unspoken invitation, and in a world where words can be misunderstood, that kind of physical proximity speaks volumes. Take this example. Michael, 29, is out at a rooftop bar with a woman he met through friends. They've been talking for about an hour, laughing here and there, and he notices she's holding her drink with both hands. Except her right hand keeps resting on the table, just inches from his. At first, he thinks nothing of it, until he notices it's been there for a while. She's not pulling back, she's not fidgeting away, she's just there. That's her way of saying, if you want to close this space, I'm comfortable with that. This is where a lot of guys mess up. They either ignore the sign completely, or they pounce too quickly, killing the moment. What you should do instead is match her energy. Shift your hand slightly closer, but don't touch right away. Let the space between you hold the tension. If she keeps her hand there or even moves a little closer, you have your green light. Think about Sarah, 26, sitting with a guy she's been crushing on at a quiet wine lounge. She's leaning in just slightly, her glass resting near her left hand, which is deliberately close to his on the table. She's not going to say, "Touch me," because that would ruin the unspoken magic, but she's putting the thought in his mind, letting him feel the possibility. And if he's paying attention, he'll notice the way her fingertips angle toward him, the way she doesn't move them away when he shifts in his seat. From a Stoic perspective, this is where presence and self-control matter. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In moments like this, your thoughts need to be calm, observant, and intentional, not clouded by desperation or overthinking. If you're truly present, you won't miss these cues, and you won't rush to break the spell. Now here's where it gets interesting. Sometimes she'll do this hand placement in a group setting, just to see if you're tuned in to her. It's a subtle test. Will you notice? Will you respond with composure? Or will you stay locked in your own head, oblivious? Women value men who can pick up on the unspoken. That's the real social intelligence that separates the guys she flirts with from the guys she wants. So, next time you're sitting with a woman and her hand just happens to be close to yours, don't brush it off. Recognize it for what it is, a low-risk, high-signal gesture that she's comfortable closing the gap. Move slow, keep your frame, and let her feel that you're both aware of the moment. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever noticed a woman doing this before? Drop it in the comments and write, "I notice everything." And don't go anywhere, because the next sign I'm about to share is even more subtle, and it's one that most men never see coming. Number 2, sits closer. When a woman deliberately closes the distance between you, it's rarely just about comfort, it's about connection. Think about it. People naturally keep a bubble of personal space, especially with those they don't know well. If she's shrinking that bubble on purpose, she's signaling something without ever saying a word. Picture this. Maybe you're sitting at a long booth in a lounge, plenty of space between you. At first, she's on her side, relaxed but not touching. But as the conversation flows, as the laughter builds, she starts sliding closer. Maybe it's just a few inches at first, but then she's well within your personal space, her leg almost brushing yours. She could have stayed where she was. She didn't. And that decision is loaded with meaning. In social psychology, proximity breeds intimacy. The closer someone is physically, the more connected we tend to feel emotionally. And women are acutely aware of this dynamic. That's why when she chooses to sit closer, she's not only showing comfort, she's subtly testing your presence, your energy, and your composure. This is where Stoicism comes in. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." When she sits closer, it's not the moment to panic, blurt out something awkward, or fidget nervously. It's the moment to slow down, ground yourself, and simply notice. Respond with calm confidence. Keep your voice steady, your body language open, and your energy grounded. Let her feel that her closeness doesn't throw you off balance. Sometimes, this move happens in a more subtle way. Imagine you're at a group gathering, everyone's scattered around the room. She has a perfectly good seat across from you, but chooses the one right next to yours instead. Maybe she even moves her drink, her bag, or her jacket to make that happen. On the surface, it's just finding a seat. But in reality, it's a calculated shift to be in your orbit. Other times, it's in a quieter, more intimate setting, like sitting side by side at a cafe instead of across the table. She could choose distance. Instead, she chooses proximity. This isn't about convenience, it's about creating a shared space where the rest of the world feels farther away. Here's the key: don't lean in too much too soon. The moment she closes the gap, your job isn't to immediately fill the space with more movement or touch. It's to let the closeness breathe. Maintain your posture, hold your frame, and allow her to feel the electricity of that reduced distance. When you remain composed, you send the unspoken message, "I'm comfortable with you being here, and I don't need to chase." That's far more attractive than lunging into her space the second she offers it. From her perspective, moving closer is a quiet risk. It's her way of making herself more available without outright declaring it. If you respond with presence instead of pressure, you pass the test. And when she feels safe in that proximity, that's when her attraction deepens. So, next time a woman shortens the physical gap between you, remember, it's not random, it's intentional. Treat it like the invitation it is, but also like the test it might be. Hold your ground, be observant, and let her feel that you're a man who notices but doesn't rush. Now I'm curious, have you ever realized a woman moved closer to you on purpose? Share your story in the comments and write, "I hold my frame." And stay with me, because the next sign is so subtle that even experienced guys overlook it, yet it's one of the strongest signals of interest you'll ever get. Number 3, touches, necklace. This one is so subtle that if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it completely. Yet, in the language of attraction, it's like a whispered confession. When a woman begins playing with or touching her necklace while talking to you, it's not just a random fidget, it's a signal deeply tied to psychology, body language, and sometimes even her subconscious. Let's break this down. In nonverbal communication, Gestures near the neckline or collarbone often indicate self-soothing mixed with attraction. The neck is one of the most vulnerable parts of the body. Touching it draws attention there whether she realizes it or not. And when she lightly fingers a necklace or pendant, she's combining two signals at once: subtle nervous excitement and an unspoken invitation for your eyes to follow. Now imagine this in real life. You're at a cozy wine bar, and across from you is Alex, 29, an architect from Denver. You've been talking for 20 minutes about travel, music, and little life quirks. Suddenly, as she laughs at something you say, her fingers start to lightly circle the pendant hanging just above her collarbone. She's still listening to you, still smiling, but the gesture keeps repeating. It's delicate, almost rhythmic. She might be doing it to ground herself in the moment, but the effect is magnetic. Your attention is drawn there without effort, and she knows it. The same can happen in a more casual setting. Let's say you're in a park with Emily, 26, who works in marketing. You're sitting on a bench, and she's telling you about a recent hiking trip. Out of nowhere, she starts adjusting her necklace, sliding the chain through her fingers. Her eyes keep darting back to yours as she talks. This isn't about the jewelry, it's about the comfort she feels, the heightened awareness of your presence, and the subconscious desire to emphasize femininity. From a Stoic perspective, the key here is perception without reaction. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Observe constantly that all things are the result of change." In this context, the change is subtle, her body language shifting from neutral to inviting. The Stoic man notices without overreacting. You don't interrupt her story to point out the gesture, you don't smirk knowingly, and you definitely don't lunge forward. Instead, you stay present, meet her gaze, and let the moment build on its own. Why is this so effective as a sign of attraction? Because it's rarely forced. Unlike exaggerated flirting gestures, touching a necklace is often unconscious. That means it slips past the filters of deliberate behavior, revealing genuine emotional states, interest, comfort, curiosity. However, context matters. If she's fiddling with her necklace while glancing at her phone, tapping her foot impatiently, or scanning the room, it could be a sign of boredom or distraction. The real tell is when it happens during engaged conversation, with her body oriented toward you and her attention anchored on your words. The best move on your part: lean into the conversation, not the gesture. Let your confidence show in how you speak, how you listen, and how you maintain calm, steady energy. By not rushing to interpret or act on every signal, you project the composure that makes you more attractive. And here's the truth: when a woman senses that you notice her cues but aren't desperate for them, her interest often intensifies. The necklace touch may become more frequent, the eye contact deeper, the smiles softer. You've shown that you can read her without calling her out, and that balance of awareness and restraint is powerful. So next time you're talking to a woman and her fingers start dancing over a pendant or chain, pay attention. This could be one of the clearest, quietest signs she's drawn to you. Recognize it, respect it, and respond with presence, not pressure. Have you ever caught a woman doing this and only realized its meaning later? Drop your story in the comments and write, "I see the signs." And stick around, because the next sign we'll cover is even more playful and just as revealing. Number 4. Bites lip. There's something undeniably charged about a woman biting her lip. It's not loud, it's not obvious, and yet it can carry more meaning than a dozen words ever could. When you see it, your instincts often kick in before your mind does. But here's the thing: understanding why it happens can change how you interpret the moment and how you respond. Lip biting can be a micro-expression, a fleeting, subconscious gesture that leaks emotion. In the realm of attraction, it often signals a mix of nervousness, excitement, and anticipation. It's a way of containing energy, like trying to trap a spark before it turns into a flame. When she bites her lip, she might be grounding herself in the moment, trying to control a smile, or subtly drawing attention to her mouth. All of these possibilities lean toward one thing: heightened interest. From a psychological standpoint, this gesture taps into primal wiring. The mouth is one of the most sensual features of the human body, and when someone draws attention to it intentionally or not, it can trigger subconscious attraction cues. In social situations, lip biting often happens when the tension in the air is positive but slightly overwhelming. It's her body's way of channeling that tension without breaking the flow of conversation. But here's where a Stoic perspective adds an important layer. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." The lip bite, for you as a man, should be a moment to listen not just to her words, but to her body language, tone, and energy. Don't rush to label it as a guaranteed sign of attraction. Instead, let it be one piece of a larger puzzle. Imagine this: you're deep in conversation, maybe telling a story that's drawing her in. She's holding eye contact, leaning slightly forward. Then, as you pause, her teeth catch her lower lip for just a second before she releases it. That's your signal, not to pounce, not to overthink, but to recognize that the emotional temperature just went up. It's also worth noting that lip biting doesn't always mean romance. Context is everything. It can also signal hesitation, discomfort, or even a simple habit. This is why a grounded, observant approach matters. Look for patterns. Does she combine it with prolonged eye contact? Does her body angle toward you? Is the rest of her demeanor open and relaxed? When multiple cues align, you're probably looking at genuine attraction rather than a nervous tick. Another Stoic angle comes into play here: restraint. Seneca said, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." In this case, gratitude means respecting the moment for what it is, a quiet, intimate signal, not exploiting it or forcing it into something bigger than it is. That self-control is exactly what sets you apart from the men who chase every flicker of interest without thinking. When you handle these moments with calm, you send a powerful message. You're a man who doesn't need constant validation. You notice, you appreciate, and you let things unfold naturally. That composure makes you magnetic because it shows you're in control of yourself, not just reacting to external stimulus. In practical terms, the best move when you see a lip bite is to stay engaged in the conversation while slightly deepening your own presence. Lower your voice a touch, slow your words, and maintain steady eye contact. This amplifies the intimacy without breaking it. You're meeting her signal with an equally subtle response, a quiet escalation that respects her pace. So, the next time you catch this gesture, remember, it's a small movement with big potential, but only in the hands of a man who knows how to read it in context. Notice it, value it, but don't lean your entire interpretation on it. In the dance of attraction, the lip bite is just one beat. Your job is to keep the rhythm going without rushing the song. Number 5. Lowers voice. There's something almost magnetic about the moment a woman lowers her voice when talking to you. It's subtle, but it's one of the clearest non-verbal signals that she's inviting a closer, more intimate connection. See, lowering the voice isn't just about volume, it changes the entire tone of the interaction. The pitch softens, the pace slows, and suddenly it feels like the rest of the room fades out. This isn't random. Psychologically, when someone lowers their voice, it forces you to lean in. It creates a private bubble, even in a crowded space. For women, this can be an instinctive way to bring you into her personal space without physically touching you. It's flirtation that bypasses the obvious. It's intimate without being explicit. Let's make this real. Imagine you're at a rooftop bar in Austin. Jake, 31, is leaning against the counter talking to a friend when a woman he just met joins their conversation. At first, her tone is upbeat and social, matching the group energy. But as she turns toward Jake, her words get quieter, almost conspiratorial. She asks, "So, how do you know them?" with a half smile, and Jake notices he has to lean slightly closer to catch her words. That's not just small talk, it's her pulling him in. Or picture Emily, 27, chatting with a guy at a coffee shop in Seattle. She's telling a story, but midway through, she lowers her voice and looks directly at him as if sharing a secret, even though the secret is just about how she takes her coffee. The topic doesn't matter, it's the shift in delivery that signals she wants a moment just between them. Here's where a lot of men miss the mark. They either don't notice this change, or they respond by abruptly matching her volume in an exaggerated way, which can feel awkward. The key is to hold your composure, keep eye contact, and mirror just enough so the intimacy stays intact without breaking the natural flow. You're showing that you're aware of the shift, but you're not overplaying it. From a Stoic perspective, this is a perfect example of being present and reading the situation without rushing to act. As Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." When she lowers her voice, that's your cue to slow down, tune in, and let the moment breathe. Why does this work so powerfully? Because it bypasses logic and taps into instinct. Lowering the voice signals trust and vulnerability, 2 things that deepen attraction. It tells you she's willing to create a just us space, even in public. And if you respond with calm attentiveness instead of nervous chatter, you reinforce that connection. So next time you're talking to a woman and you notice her voice drop, not because the room got louder, but because she's drawing you in, recognize it for what it is. Stay present, lean in slightly, and keep your tone steady. That's how you turn a fleeting signal into a magnetic moment. Number 6, breaks touch barrier. When it comes to attraction, one of the most telling signs she's interested is when she breaks the touch barrier. And here's the thing, it's rarely random. That light tap on your arm during a laugh, the brush of her hand as she passes you something, even a playful push when she's teasing you. These are all deliberate, subtle invitations. Physical touch is powerful because it communicates more than words ever could. Our brains are wired to associate touch with warmth, safety, and connection. When she initiates it, even in the smallest way, it's a signal she's comfortable enough to close that physical gap. And comfort is the foundation where attraction thrives. The mistake many men make is overreacting, either pulling back too quickly, as if they've been caught off guard, or over-leaning into it, making the interaction suddenly feel heavy and forced. The right response is calm acknowledgement. Keep your body relaxed, maintain the flow of conversation, and let the touch linger naturally without making it a big deal. The goal isn't to pounce, it's to match her pace. From a Stoic perspective, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." In this context, it's a reminder not to rush, not to let desire override your composure. Touch can be exciting, but your job is to remain steady, to let her see that you're confident enough to handle closeness without losing your center. Here's what's interesting, breaking the touch barrier often comes after she's already tested the waters with eye contact, body language, and maybe a lowered voice. By the time she touches you, she's already gauged your energy. If you flinch or seem uncomfortable, it can reset the momentum. But if you stay grounded, it tells her you're a man who can meet her signals without fumbling the moment. One subtle way to reciprocate without overstepping is to allow a brief, light touch back later in the interaction. For example, if she taps your arm while laughing, maybe when you're making a point a few minutes later, you lightly touch her elbow to emphasize a word. Keep it brief, confident, and organic. Touch works on a psychological level too. It releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which can make interactions feel warmer and more connected. That's why a well-timed, intentional touch can change the entire dynamic between 2 people. The touch barrier isn't just about physicality, it's about trust. She's essentially saying, "I feel safe with you." And that's not something you earn by being flashy or overly aggressive, it's built through consistent, calm presence. So, The next time she reaches across the table and her fingers graze yours, or she places her hand on your shoulder when leaning in to speak, understand what's happening. She's signaling her comfort and attraction without saying a word. Your job is simple. Notice it, respect it, and keep the interaction smooth. That's how you turn a casual touch into a deep, magnetic connection without ever forcing the moment. Number 7. Adjusts clothes. Sometimes, attraction shows up in the smallest, almost invisible gestures, and one of the clearest is when she starts adjusting her clothes while talking to you. It might be a subtle tug at her top, smoothing down her skirt, or even fixing the collar of her jacket. On the surface, it looks like nothing. But often, it's a subconscious signal that she's becoming more self-aware in your presence, and she wants to look her best. From a psychological perspective, these adjustments can be linked to what's called preening behavior. It's the human equivalent of a bird fluffing its feathers. It happens without much thought, triggered by the desire to appear more attractive to someone they're interested in. If you're paying attention, you'll notice this shift. It's her way of silently saying, "I care about how I'm presenting myself to you." Take Ethan, 29, for example. He's at a rooftop bar with friends when he starts chatting with a woman near the railing. She's engaged in the conversation, laughing and holding eye contact, but every so often she runs her hands over the sides of her dress, smoothing out invisible wrinkles. Ethan doesn't interrupt the flow or call it out instead. He takes it as a quiet green light that she's feeling the spark. Or think about Rachel, 26, on a coffee date with a guy she met through mutual friends. As he's telling a funny story, she casually pulls her cardigan tighter around her shoulders and adjusts her necklace. She doesn't even realize she's doing it. It's simply her body's way of saying, "I'm tuned in, and I want to make a good impression." The key here isn't to overreact or start reading too much into every movement. Context matters. If she's adjusting her clothes because it's windy or she's been sitting awkwardly, that's not the same signal. But when these adjustments happen repeatedly during your interaction, especially when paired with other cues like leaning in, holding eye contact, or smiling, they can be part of a larger pattern of attraction. From a Stoic point of view, this is where you keep your composure. Marcus Aurelius said, "Observe always that everything is the result of change. Attraction is fluid. It builds and shifts moment by moment. Your role is to notice the changes without forcing them." A calm, grounded presence not only helps you pick up on these signals, but also makes you more attractive in return. One of the mistakes men make is pointing it out too soon, like saying, "You look nervous," or "fixing your hair for me." This can break the natural rhythm and make her self-conscious. Instead, let her have that moment. Continue the conversation, maintain your relaxed posture, and subtly mirror her energy. For Ethan, that meant keeping his body language open and leaning in slightly when she did. For Rachel's date, it meant smiling warmly and telling his story with ease, letting her adjustments remain unspoken but acknowledged through his attentive presence. It's also worth noting that clothing adjustments can serve another purpose. They can be a form of micro-flirting. A woman might slowly roll up her sleeves, adjust the strap of her top, or smooth her jeans in a way that subtly draws attention to certain features. It's not always deliberate, but it can be an unconscious invitation for you to notice her femininity. These small moments might seem insignificant, but when you combine them with other cues like touch, proximity, and changes in tone, they become part of a bigger picture. They're threads in a larger fabric of attraction, and your awareness of them allows you to respond with confidence instead of confusion. At the end of the day, adjusting clothes isn't just about fabric and fit, it's about connection. When she does it around you, it's often a quiet, unspoken sign that she values how you see her. Your job isn't to pounce on that moment, but to appreciate it for what it is, a subtle shift that tells you the dynamic between you is changing and in your favor. Number 8. Blushes at compliment. There's something unmistakable about that slight flush of pink across someone's cheeks when they hear a compliment, especially when it's from a person they're secretly interested in. Blushing is one of those raw, involuntary reactions that no one can truly control. It's your body's way of betraying what's happening internally, and in the context of attraction, it's pure gold. When a woman blushes at something you've said, it's rarely just about the words themselves. It's about the emotional charge behind them. Maybe your compliment caught her off guard. Maybe it touched on something personal. Or maybe it was simply the way you said it with a calm, confident tone that made it feel genuine rather than performative. Whatever the reason, that blush can be a window into her feelings. From a biological standpoint, blushing happens when adrenaline kicks in, causing the blood vessels in your face to widen. It's a visible sign of heightened emotion, whether that's embarrassment, surprise, or excitement. In romantic settings, it often signals vulnerability, the kind that only shows up when there's an emotional connection or a hint of attraction. This is where you need to think like a Stoic. Epictetus famously said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." In this case, listening means paying attention to the cues beyond words. A blush is her body's way of speaking, and if you're observant, you'll hear it loud and clear. But here's the important part: you don't call it out. Saying, "You're blushing," might make her feel self-conscious, and the moment could lose its magic. Instead, you acknowledge it silently, let the conversation flow, and perhaps deepen the moment with a warm smile or steady eye contact. That subtle reinforcement can make her feel seen and appreciated without putting her on the spot. It's also worth noting that not all blushes are dramatic. Sometimes it's just a faint change in her skin tone, a slight warmth in her cheeks. You might notice it only when you're close enough, or when the lighting catches it. That's why awareness matters. You can only pick up on these delicate signs if you're present and not distracted. From a practical perspective, the best compliments to trigger this kind of reaction aren't generic. Telling someone, "You look nice," is safe, but it rarely sparks a genuine blush. A more personal, thoughtful compliment, something about the way she carries herself, the sparkle in her eyes when she laughs, or the calm energy she brings into the room, can hit deeper. These kinds of compliments speak to her as a person, not just her appearance, and that's where the emotional impact comes from. Blushing at a compliment is more than just a physical reaction. It's an unspoken admission. It says, "What you just said affected me." In a world where so many interactions are filtered and guarded, that's rare and powerful. When you see it, don't rush it. Let the moment breathe. Keep your energy grounded, your expression calm, and your attention fully on her. It's often in these quiet, fleeting moments that the deepest connections are formed. And if you handle it right, a simple blush could be the start of something much bigger. Number 9. Moves hair back. There's a certain elegance in the way a woman brushes her hair back. It's not just about fixing a strand, it's often a subtle, almost subconscious signal of attraction. In the right context, this small gesture can speak volumes, and if you're paying attention, it's a sign you shouldn't ignore. Think about it. Moving the hair away from the face exposes the neck and collarbone, 2 areas that are deeply associated with femininity and vulnerability. It's a non-verbal way of opening up, a kind of silent, "I'm comfortable with you," or even, "I want you to notice me." Sometimes it's done slowly and deliberately, other times quickly and nervously, but either way, it draws attention to her features. Let's put this in a real-life scenario. Imagine Ethan, 29, sitting at an outdoor cafe on a Saturday afternoon. Across from him is Julia, 27, someone he met through mutual friends. The conversation is flowing naturally, and as Ethan leans in slightly to make a point, Julia tucks her hair behind her ear. It's not windy, there's no practical reason for her to do it, yet she does it twice in the span of a few minutes. That's a cue, Ethan notices. He doesn't interrupt the flow or overthink it, but internally, he registers it as a potential sign of interest. What makes this gesture so telling is its mix of instinct and intention. Sometimes, it's a nervous habit. Other times, it's a purposeful display. The key is to read the full picture, her tone of voice, eye contact, and body orientation. If the hair move is paired with a smile or extended eye contact, it's much more likely to be a signal rather than random fidgeting. Psychologists note that hair-touching behaviors often spike when someone is around a person they find attractive. It's linked to self-grooming, a natural human tendency to make ourselves look more appealing in the presence of someone we want to impress. And like many forms of body language, it often bypasses conscious control. As a man, your role here isn't to pounce on the sign or make her feel self-conscious by pointing it out. Instead, you stay calm, grounded, and engaged in the conversation. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." In the context of dating, that translates to not reacting in ways that are needy, overeager, or overly validating. You acknowledge the signal silently and let it add to the overall pattern you're observing. If you want to respond in a way that subtly builds attraction, mirror the energy without copying the action. For example, if she leans in slightly while moving her hair back, you might lean in just a touch as well, holding her gaze for a moment longer. This creates a sense of shared intimacy without breaking the conversational rhythm. Hair movements like this are small pieces of a bigger puzzle. Alone, they don't prove attraction, but combined with other cues, they can be a powerful indicator that she's feeling a certain way around you. The most magnetic men don't just wait for someone to spell things out, they notice the unspoken, and they respond with composure and confidence. Sometimes, the smallest gestures carry the loudest messages. If you can learn to read them, you'll start seeing opportunities you never noticed before. Number 10. Holds eye contact. There's something undeniably powerful about prolonged eye contact. It's one of the most primal and intimate forms of non-verbal communication we have, and when a woman holds your gaze longer than necessary, it often carries a meaning she might never say out loud. This isn't just looking at you, it's looking into you. And in those moments, a lot is being said without a single word spoken. Eye contact works on multiple levels. Biologically, it triggers the release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which creates a sense of connection and trust. Psychologically, it's a way of breaking down barriers and testing comfort levels. In attraction, it's almost like a silent dare. Do you see me the way I see you? Now, there's a difference between casual glances and the kind of eye contact we're talking about here. A quick look is often polite acknowledgement, but holding your gaze for 3, 4, or 5 seconds is something entirely different. It's rare, it's intentional, and it's usually reserved for someone she's curious about or already attracted to. Picture this: Ryan, 31, is at a rooftop gathering. Across the table, he catches the eyes of Melissa, 28, someone he's just met. They're in the middle of a group conversation, but every so often, Melissa's eyes find his. And when they do, she doesn't dart them away immediately. She lets them linger just long enough to send a pulse of energy through the moment. Ryan doesn't break first, and neither does she. By the time someone else speaks, there's already a silent understanding forming between them. The Stoics understood the importance of presence, and few things demonstrate presence more than unflinching eye contact. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." In this context, being a man who can meet and hold eye contact without flinching is an act of embodying confidence before it's even tested. If you can't hold someone's gaze, you're communicating uncertainty. If you can, you're communicating grounded strength. Of course, there's a balance. Holding eye contact doesn't mean staring her down or making her uncomfortable. It's about matching her energy, staying relaxed, and letting your expression convey warmth and openness rather than aggression. Combine it with a subtle smile or a calm demeanor, and the effect multiplies. When a woman maintains eye contact, she's not just observing you, she's inviting you into a more personal space. It's often a green light, but it can also be a test to see how you handle the intensity. If you respond with steadiness, you pass without saying a word. In the end, holding eye contact is both a signal and a response. When she does it, she's showing interest or curiosity. When you return it with composure, you show you're the kind of man who doesn't shy away from connection. It's a dance of attention, trust, and subtle challenge, and when done right, it can be the spark that shifts everything between you. All right, let's wrap this up. What we just covered today wasn't about guessing games or overcomplicating attraction. It was about recognizing the subtle, almost hidden signals that tell you when a woman's interest goes beyond polite conversation. These are cues most men overlook, yet once you start seeing them, you'll never be in the dark again. Remember, the real power here isn't just knowing the signs, it's having the calm, confident presence to respond without chasing, overreacting, or second-guessing yourself. That's the essence of Stoic masculinity, reading the moment, trusting your instincts, and letting your actions speak louder than words. If you found value in this, and you want to keep sharpening your understanding of female psychology, attraction, and the mindset that makes a man truly magnetic, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. That way, you'll never miss the insights that can change how you approach every interaction. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.